I know it's been a while since I was able to do one of these. This information in this area of the book, I found that today things that's going on is exactly the same things that was going on then, which made me even look at it deeper and really study it before I delivered it on to anybody else. Now, I try to keep my own personal opinions and things like that out of the class, taking it directly from the books and everything, trying to put it concisely into something that I can deliver to you. With that being said, I'm not sure how long this one's going to be, but I'll try to keep it as short as possible and get through it as quickly as I can. The first histories of the American founding covered the period leading up to the Constitution, but skipped over the framing of it. Justice Joseph's Story, Volume 3, Commentaries of the Constitution of the United States, 1933, focused on colonial history. The things that they did day to day, how they lived, the things that, were important to them, that sort of thing. Not so much as what caused them to sit down and draw up a constitution. It looked at the deficiencies of the Articles of Confederation, but didn't give a solution for those deficiencies. They published James Madison's notes because he kept more of a diary of what was going on all the way through, why they did what they did, why they argued this, what they did there, that sort of thing. The abolitionist opponents of slavery argued that Madison's notes proved that the Constitution was a pro-slavery bargain between the North and the South, and a counter-revolution against the Declaration of Independence. They tried to make it one against the other. They debated over slavery, or the debate over slavery, in theory and practice, created a constitutional crisis in the United States. Some, like Senator John C. Calhoun of the South Carolina, had denied the principle of human equality in the Declaration of Independence, and had gone so far as to embrace slavery as a positive good. But Alexander Stephens, the vice president of the Confederacy, argued that slavery would be the cornerstone of the new nation. Chief Justice Roger B. Taney argued for the Supreme Court in the Dred Scott versus Sanford that slaves were property and under the U.S. Constitution had no rights whichsoever white man was bound to respect. The reason that I said that it's sort of what's going on today, that Black Lives Matter, Grandmaster Jay, they're bringing up all of this stuff from history, from what happened and everything. But this, it shows how they were trying to get rid of slavery even back then. But they're trying to say that they're slaves today. Senator Stephen Douglas of Illinois hoped to solve the problem by turning to popular sovereignty and allowing territories and new states to decide for themselves whether or not to endorse slavery. But Abraham Lincoln held that slavery violated the Declaration of Independence and recalled the nation to the Founders' Constitution and the principle that it enshrined in order to place slavery once again on the road to ultimate extinction. See, in the years after the Civil War, with the rise of American industrialization, some concluded that the original Constitution system had failed completely. These progressive thinkers set out to create a movement in the United States that for the first time self-consciously aimed at changing the principles and practices of American constitutionalism. The revolt against formalism. This took many forms in theology, history, law, politics, and social policy. The Constitution's focus on controlling and restricting government power and moderating democratic opinion was viewed as misguided and a serious barrier to the extensive government thought necessary for progress. As a result, the practical aim of the progressives was to make the Constitution flexible and pliable by replacing the original Constitution system of individual rights and limited governments with a living Constitution of evolving rights and unlimited government capable of easy growth, of easy adaptation in changing times. Now, that was one of the serious things that I have been saying through these classes. They wanted limited government, but Democrats wanted as much power as they could get. They wanted more government. They wanted to control everything. Very similar to today. The progressive constitutional The progressive constitutionalism crisis came into maturity during the New Deal. At first, the Supreme Court struck down many of Franklin Roosevelt's New Deal programs, regulating agriculture, manufacturing, labor, transportation as unconstitutional. See, they put, back then, wanted to tell you how much you could grow and things like that, so that trying to make the markets equal and everything, trying to get their nose into the farmer's business, and it's not changed. But eventually, two justices, and this is really important to hear, but eventually two justices modified Supreme Court doctrine and allowed New Deal initiatives to be approved. The process was fully concretized when Roosevelt was able to appoint new justices who dramatically changed it. By the direction of the Supreme Court. In this way, the Constitution was changed not by the process of amendment, but by the interpretation on the part of the judges, amounting to what some have called a constitutional revolution. What that meant is, instead of really looking at what the document said and how it was put together and how it was written, they twisted it there's no other way to say it. They twisted it to say, well, they meant this. We've heard the same thing when they're talking about the Second Amendment. Oh, they didn't mean that everyone should have a gun. That is not what the Second Amendment says. This is the stuff that we really have to watch. If they can make it sound like they meant something other than what was written, then they'll run with it. And that's what they're doing. And I've heard this so much. That's the reason I really had a hard time getting into this. Traditional arguments against progressive and New Deal constitutionalism became even more focused in scholarship, responding to the activist decisions of the Warren Court, laying the groundwork for what came to be called broadly originalism, and calling for a revival of traditional constitutionalism of the American founders, or what then Attorney General Edwin Meese, in a series of important speeches, criticized liberal jurisprudence reformed to, Attorney General Edwin Meese, in a series of important speeches, criticized liberal jurisprudence and referred to it as original intention. See, they know what they're doing. That's what he was basically trying to say. They know exactly what they're doing, and they're doing it on purpose. In recent years, these calls have led to a robust body of originalist scholarships, and with the founding of the Federalist Society in 1982, a growing number of originalist law students, lawyers, and jurists, going back to what it was supposed to be. And that's the fight that we have going on. Basically, the Democrats and these peoples, the liberals, would be considered the progressives, and the Republicans, or those with those things that they want to hold sacred, would be considered the originalists, and they want to hold on to those original philosophies and beliefs, while the others are always changing, where that's the fight. But that's what has you for today. It's a little longer than it usually is. Some of the words are hard to go through, and my mouth don't want to say them. But that has you for today, and I'll see you again next time.